brother Aaron Muhammad. Assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum salam, Brother Willie. How you doing, sir?
I'm fine by Allah's grace, brother, and we thank you for giving us this opportunity to have you as a guest on our show. I have a testimony.
Thank you. I want to thank you for the invitation. Praise be to Allah. Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. And I'd like to get straight into the interview. So I want to begin by providing our audience an opportunity for them to find out, to hear your journey to Islam as taught by the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad under the guidance of the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan. So how were you first exposed to the teachings of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad?
Thank you. Well, my first exposure to the nation of Islam as it is today. Prior to '75, we would always see Muslims in the community, and I knew some down in Arkansas. I knew a couple in Chicago, but I wasn't being invited at that time. Of course, I was a very a young child and also a young adult down in Arkansas. I met Muslims, but they wasn't inviting me to come to the temple as they called it back in those days. But my real first exposure was in '81. The first time I heard the name Farrakhan was the day before Savior's Day '81, um, from a drug dealer, by the way, a young lady um, named Diane. She had a neighborhood bar. Um, and the Saturday before Savior's Day '81, which was the first Savior's Day that was presented publicly during this rebirth, this rebuilding stage of the Nation of Islam. I was waiting for her to bring me a package. And as I was waiting, she placed on her stereo the record uh, called Heed the Call, Y'all. And Heed the Call, Y'all. The song was on one side, but there was a lecture on the other side called Where Is Your Head? It was a lecture that Brother Farrakhan delivered to um, some DJs at a Jack the Rapper convention, I think in Atlanta. And I listened, while I was waiting for her, I listened to this thing for maybe about 15 or 20 minutes. And when she came out to deliver me what I was waiting for, I asked her what that. She said Farrakhan. First time I heard the name. It didn't mean nothing to me because it was the first time I heard the name. But then she said, those are the Muslims, they at your hotel. I just happened to be the night bell captain at the Pitt Congress Hotel in '81. And I was being off for 2 days. I didn't know the Muslims that came down there and locked down the hotel. The Savior's Day '81 was across the street at the auditorium in Chicago. So I went to work that night, worked the graveyard shift. So when I got to work at 11 o'clock that night, or 10:30 that night to start at 11 o'clock, I saw the Muslims who I hadn't seen in several years now because of the departure of the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and the nation going in a different direction following Wallace D. Muhammad. So that was the first time I saw these Muslims in quite a while. It was funny because I was, doing the worldly things. Um, I remember warning a few white boys that used to run around with at work, telling them, look, y'all better be careful now because these people already think y'all devils, so don't play with them, warning them. And I look back at it now, it's funny. But but I remember the record that I heard earlier that day, just a few minutes of it, and I asked one of the believers that was walking past my desk if he could go and grab me that album that I heard. And I also asked them if they had any of those bean pies I remember. Brought me back to bean pie, brought me back the album. I get off work 7 o'clock, 7:30 the next morning. I get home, eating breakfast, probably smoking, powder in my nose, and I was listening to this album now for the first time. I'm listening to a lecture by Minister Farrakhan, and it was so profound. My then wife at that time asked me who that was. I said somebody named Farrakhan. I said these are the Muslims. They're going to be at the auditorium across the street from the hotel. I said I think I'm going to go, and I went to Savior's Day '81. While I was at Saviors Day 81, I saw this young man walking up and down the aisles. I was seeing the bar that I attend in the neighborhood. It was Brother Joshua. Now I know him from the bar. And I don't know that much about him, but we used to shoot pool against each other in this bar. You know, we buy each other a drink periodically. We didn't do a whole lot of chatting. I kept as low key as I could, and obviously he did too because I didn't know his last name was Farrakhan and didn't know his relationship to the Nation of Islam. He was doing the same thing that I was doing at that time. And so anyway, I'm looking at him and I'm looking at the man talking, Minister Farrakhan. And I could see a resemblance and I'm kind of puzzled. And then I just took my mind off of him and just kept listening to the lecture that the minister was delivering. Then after the lecture, long lecture, must have went that program must have been about 5 hours.
Mm.
Um, and then after the lecture, I go to get in the line to purchase the tape of the lecture. And I look up and Joshua was at the head of the line running off these trash duplicated tapes and selling them. And I'm looking, I'm kind of puzzled. And he saw me in the line, he said, "What up, Aaron?" I said, "Hey, what's happening, Josh?" You know, I'm puzzled, you know. And he said, "Are you going across the street to the hotel?" So he even knew I worked at the hotel. I said, "Yeah." He said, "Okay." He said, "You got a line side. I bring it over there." I said, "Okay." So I stepped out of line. I'm puzzled, right? So I'm going to grab something I have over here. I found this is the program from Saviors Day 81.
Wow.
So I'm looking at the program and thinking of what I was, while I was at my desk, and I was writing down a few things that I was going to order and asked him if he could get it for me besides the Savior's Day tape. So I think I ordered Message to the Black Man. I ordered the Quran. And, I never heard of it before Savior's Day 81, the Quran. I I ordered the first book by Mother Titanetta, the first woman in Islam, for my wife at that time, and I probably ordered How to Eat to Live. And that was probably it. Joshua, when he came and brought me the Savior's Day 81 lecture, I said, "So, I said, you some relationship to that man that was, Mr. Farrakhan, Louis Farrakhan?" He said, "Yes, my father." I said, "Oh, okay." And I didn't say no more, I I told him what I wanted to order. And he said, "I bring it to your home." I said, "Okay." I said, "I live on the west side now." He said, "No problem." And a couple of days later, he brought me those few books that I ordered, but he brought me all of the other books by the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, including Seven Speeches by Minister Farrakhan. This is the one by Brother Jabril, who was called Bernard Kushner at the time. And he brought me some other tapes. I circled them on this old program from Saviors Day 81, the tape that he brought me. And I'm calling them off for a reason. There's only a few of them. He brought me State of the Race, 1978.
Mm.
He brought me Warning to the Hypocrite. He brought me Liberty or Death, that was done in New York City. He brought me The Reminder Comes Quickly Thereafter from Los Angeles. And he also brought me Black Family Day.
Mm.
Listening to those tapes, Liberty or Death, yeah. Listening to those tapes. Now, working the graveyard shift at the hotel, sometimes I had anywhere from 2 hours to sometimes 6 hours to study every night that I was at work. So I'm reading the messenger's books or listening to these tapes. And these particular tapes that I read off gave me a clear understanding at that time of the rise and the fall of the Nation of Islam.
Mm.
It, it made me able to defend God being a man at my baby stage, right? 81. When all this is within the first few months,
Wow.
made me understand who we are and our relationship to Allah and who our enemy is. Those are other than us, the white man. And so, but I remember when after Save the 81, when I walked out of the auditorium, I remember making a conscious decision that I was going to stop everything I was doing till I checked this thing out. Not to join the nation, but I just stopped everything I was doing, smoking, drinking, all of that, until I just looked into this thing, right? So he brought me these things, and I asked, I said, so when the next time can I hear your father speak, bro? This was a few days after 681. He told me about the place where his father was teaching on Wednesday nights. I think it was around. I think it's called Northeastern University, a little place on around 39th and King Drive, or between King Drive and Cottage Grove in Chicago. And he picked me up the first night, the first Wednesday night, and took me there. And I told him, I said, yeah, I can make this on my own. It's no big deal, Even though I lived on the west side, it was a little distance, but it wasn't no big deal for me. And I just started going every Wednesday night. I found out where they was meeting on Sundays. I would go, and shortly thereafter, maybe after a few weeks, on a Wednesday night, the minister used to take questions and answers after a little short talk. Wasn't a lot of people there. I asked him if I could have some of those newspapers. I was
Mm.
going to distribute some of those newspapers for him. I was still wearing the earring. And he said, "Sure, brother." He said, "Give the brother some papers. I know him. And I don't know why he said that. I don't know if Joshua told him something about me or what. But I took at that time we was on the seventh edition, the number 7 newspaper that was printed out when he started rebuilding nation. The final then I found out that the home that he was living in was maybe just about 20 minutes from my mom's home, who I was over her house all the time. So in 81, I started spending a lot of time going to the minister's home and doing whatever I could to help.
Praise
Shortly
Jesus.
thereafter, yeah, and
Yeah.
that was before we was reciting to get an X. But
Wow.
that was my beginning stage in the Nation of Islam.
And let me ask you this before I ask you, because this just popped up in my mind. Before I ask you any of your memories about that you can share with our brother Joshua. 1981 was a pivotal Savior's Day. Do you recall like your thoughts when you heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan say, because that's when he said that we announced the Mosaic Elijah Muhammad had escaped the death plot. Did you recall that, and what were your
Yeah,
thoughts?
of course I recall that. I listened to that lecture so many times. That's how I learned the fight song because he sung it after the lecture. But yes, there was a lot of things. Of course, he spoke. He could have spoke for maybe 3.5 to 4 hours that day, maybe five, close to 5 hours.
Mm,
And so there was much that I didn't understand. Um, Talking about the spider, he talked about the death plot. He talked about Elijah Muhammad being alive. I felt the spirit in that auditorium, Savior's Day 81, that I didn't have nothing to call him a liar about. You know what I mean? He made sense. He sounds genuine. He sounds committed to whatever he was saying in that lecture as far as his believing that Elijah Muhammad was alive. I didn't know one way or the other.
mm.
Of course, we heard on the news that the leader of the Nation of Islam died. 75. But
And that was that.
yeah, that was that. I didn't let that phase me. I just
Yeah.
started studying, and I just started reading and studying, and
Yeah.
those tapes were very helpful. And of course, when you read those books, those are the foundations of our belief. It builds you up.
Wow. Beautiful, man. And you mentioned brother Joshua. May Allah be pleased with our brother. And I know you developer. He brought you the videotapes and the audio tapes and the lectures, and then from on you develop a relationship with him. From years to come. is there any like a fond memory of anything, relationships, a funny story that you can share,
Joshua,
interaction you all had?
yeah, Joshua was just hilarious. Um, when he was when he was on 10, there was not a more security mind individual around.
Mm,
Out of the whole team, he was just the sharpest one when it comes to security. He loved his father tremendously. He loved the nation of Islam. Um, and he was committed to helping his father. Everyone of us know that he had a struggle, and he struggled with. But when he was on point, you could. He was witty. He was he was funny. Um, he was just a genuine brother. He was
mm,
very genuine. Um, I was crazy about Josh, and I was so grateful because through he was just he was a strong instrument. I don't know what I would have understood or what I would have got out of that one lecture and a couple of books, but obviously Allah led him to bring me what I needed for that
mm,
time. When I said that those lectures gave me a clear understanding at that time of what happened, the rise and the fall, and see the messenger as as who he was among us,
mm,
and to accept Brother Farrakhan as his helper and representative at that time.
mm.
I've been there 43 years. It must have done something for me.
Praise be
But
to you.
Joshua played a part in that by Allah's grace.
Yes, sir. Praise
In
be.
fact, this Davis Days was my 43 year anniversary.
Mm.
Mhm.
Wow. Beautiful, man. And thank you for sharing
To
that.
Allah.
In our conversations, you mentioned this before, and even when you were here in the city, you mentioned that I wanted to have you the opportunity to share this. What brother Wahid, who was the secretary at that time when you came in, and you mentioned earlier how they weren't the process of, because we were in a rebuilding of the nation, the whole process of the procession department and the procedure wasn't there. But can you share what brother Wahid told you when you recited?
Yeah, absolutely. While I was looking for some papers today, I found my letter from the Secretary of the Department telling me that my letter had passed inspection. But
Wow.
this dated September 22, 1981.
Wow.
Now, of course, the minister started rebuilding 77.
Mm.
After, or made up his mind he was going to start rebuilding. He started working underground,
Mm-hmm.
but he didn't have the believers prior to this time go through the process that we go through today, and that Elijah Muhammad took them through the process of writing the letter.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, Before September of '81, I was already Aaron X.
Mm.
I was being called Aaron X in Chicago. I mean, I think after say '81, by the end of March, I was doing everything I can to help him. I was
Mm.
just at his house, assistant, worked the graveyard shift. The daytime, I was over at the house on Damon,
Mm.
where the final call was, where the totality of the final call was being done at, written at,
Mm.
in the basement at the home on Damon. But but prior to this time, we wasn't going through the process of writing the letter. We wasn't going through the process of reciting the student enrollment at this time. He was just getting helpers. Of course, he had the Black Police League behind him. He had other organizations that was protecting him while he built the ranks of the Nation of Islam. So then finally he came out sometime in '81, summer of '81, and said we have to go back and do it as the messenger had us to do it prior to the departure of the Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And so we were given a letter, told to write our letters. And after the letters, of course, we received the actual facts and student enrollment, was told to recite a question and answer of the student enrollment. Well, when I recited to Brother Wahid, sometime after this letter, you know, When I retired to Brother Wyatt, we was on 47th Street. 47th Street was not the last location prior to us we getting the Final Call building, but this is pre-Final Call days. If we that's where we use it in Chicago. We said the Final Call days of Mas Marion, but these are pre-Final Call days. We were meeting on 47th Street. When I recited to Brother Whitehead, he congratulated me and told me that I was the first one to officially receive an X during the rebuilding of the nation. And of course, I was. It didn't mean a lot to me then
Wow.
because I don't think nobody was racing. I wasn't racing. I got my letter approved and got my actual facts and started studying and because we had to recite them. When I
Mm,
recited, Brother Wyatt told me that I was the first one to receive an X during
wow.
this rebuilding stage.
And
Praise be to Allah.
yes, praise be to Allah. And the beauty you actually to be able to still put your hands on the letter stating, congratulating and welcoming you to our nation, the
Yeah.
Nation of Islam. So that's a
Yes.
beautiful
Yes,
beautiful
sir.
story.
Praise
And
be to
now,
Allah.
as we transition a little bit, because you talked about being in Chicago, but you also have history here in the city of New Orleans, where I am from, right? So,
Yes, sir.
you're one of the believers that helped to establish the Nation of Islam in New Orleans, right? Post 1975. What can you remember about the early days of, the working here in the city and the believers who were here?
No, it wasn't 375 now.
No,
Oh,
not
oh,
pre,
you
not
talk, oh,
not pre,
yeah,
post 75,
yeah.
after
It,
75.
well, I wouldn't I wouldn't say that I helped establish it either, Brother
Right.
Willie,
Okay.
because in July of '81,
Mm-hmm.
my mother grew up in New Orleans.
Mm-hmm.
I was born and raised in Chicago. I have to
Mm-hmm.
say that because a lot of people think I'm from New Orleans, a lot of people think I'm from Arkansas. My father's family's from Arkansas, and I have most of my immediate family right now lives in Little Rock. And my mother's grew up in New Orleans. She had relatives in New Orleans at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So in '81, in July of '81, I traveled to New Orleans with my mom. Before I left, Brother Akbar was gave me the name of a brother James X.
Mm.
Now Jamil was a student minister down in New Orleans in '81, and Brother Emil on the E team was his captain. So he gave me those names, and I traveled down to New Orleans in '81, um, and met those brothers. I hung out for about a week with my mother while she was taking care of some work with our auntie, and that's when that relationship with the believers in New Orleans started in July of '81. Of course, I come back home to Chicago. I was one of the earliest student ministry classes during those early years. Sister Ava was in that class. May Allah be pleased with her. Um, Brother Yasin Muhammad, the messenger's son, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad's son, was there, and a few other people. And there was a time, I think in '83, '84, the minister was telling us in that class that we need to be, we need to go out and help other cities. Um, but when I got to New Orleans was really established, and I just fell in ranks and worked with the believers in New Orleans at that time.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you for sharing. And while we're here, as you know, you talked about this briefly in our conversations that we've had at coffee shops, and you also were asked a little bit about it when you were here giving, sharing aspects of your testimony as well. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan has spoken about this incident, not in great detail in New Orleans, where there were some brothers who have been incarcerated, right? But in
Yes.
our talks about it, you talked about some of the lessons. I remember you shared some of the lessons you personally learned, as well as some of the guidance that was shared with you by the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan about that incident. Can you share some of the lessons that you learned and the guidance that the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan shared with you about that incident?
Absolutely, absolutely. We're not going and talking about the case,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to grab something else. Also, a letter that he written to me while I was incarcerated in the federal institution. But a few of us, maybe I think seven of us, was convicted for fraud. As a fraud case, we had businesses, we had stores, and we were selling produce and fish that the nation was bringing in. The fish was they what they were bringing in, and we was going door to door in the communities, and we were doing. We got wrapped up in the case of fraud. Food stamp trafficking is what it was, and seven of us did federal time behind that. And when I got in the course, at this time I was living in Baton Rouge, and the study group in Baton Rouge at this time was at my home. Small group of believers were coming to the home, and we was doing study group at my home at this time in Baton Rouge. So I was like a coordinator or student minister at that time. When the case came down, and then we got to federal time. But while I was in the federal institution in Texarkana, by the second day, they had agreed to allow me to have uh, the chapel at the federal joint for 3 days a week. So that I could do Sunday meetings, Wednesday meetings, and Friday study group. And the minister wrote me a letter. This is a letter dated January the 2nd,
Wow.
1987. It's a short letter, if you mind.
Go ahead.
It's, it says, in the name of Allah, the beneficent, the merciful, I bear witness there is no God but Allah, and I bear witness that Muhammad is his messenger. Brother Aaron X. Jones. Assalamu alaikum, dear brother Aaron and brother Sam. He was one of the brothers that ended up in Texarkana with me from the same case. He said, I received your letter from November 28, 1986, and was happy to hear from you. I too share your sorrow at your being involved in any unrighteous activity that has caused you to be taken from your family and friends. However, Allah is in complete charge of affairs. So, with His help and guidance, you can turn what is apparently negative into what is actually positive for you, your family, and the nation of Islam. I was pleased to know that you brothers have been conducting meetings in the facility twice weekly. Please accept the enclosed study guide instructions in the September 21, 1986 speech, which is the form of the which is form the form the basis of our study over the next 3 years, over the next 3 months or so. You will receive the guides on a weekly basis until the completion of the course. May Allah continue to bless you both with the strength and understanding. Assalamu alaikum, your brother and servant, Louis Farrakhan. So Sister Ava, I think, told him that I was having the study groups in the federal penitentiary on a is on a regular basis, and he started sending me the study guides in at that time, um, turning what appeared to be a negative situation into a positive situation where you just don't stop working. You
Mm,
know, because and that's what I was able to do. But this is some of the lessons that I learned when I came home and got a chance to talk to the minister for the first time about the case. He's heard it from a lot of people, but this was the first time he heard it from somebody that was involved in the case face to face. And
mm,
as we talked about it, he told me, he said, Brother Aaron, you got to warn the brothers. He said that none of us is insignificant. The moment we say we with you, Brother Farrakhan, that's when they start watching you. And we cannot give them the stick to whoop us with. And this is what I've been telling brothers all the time. We have to learn how to be squeaky clean. We have to learn to be patient and know that Allah promised us, success, and that He's going to deliver on the promise as long as we follow instruction and do what we're supposed to do. Even recently, I think it was maybe 3.5 years ago at the farm, he told me, he said, brother, he said, you have to warn the young peoples because the enemy wants to get them in trouble and then offer them penitentiary or military.
mm,
So I'm saying this to say that we're not insignificant. None of the believers are insignificant. You can't think that you're under the radar.
mm,
Um, the messenger called them international snoopers. I watch how they snooped on us and kept caught us in the case. The telephone's a bug, our walls are bugged. If you have work done in your home or on your car, don't think it's not bugged. Don't just take for granted that nobody's listening to you. So so don't participate in unrighteous conduct. You know, don't let them take you away. Don't give them that stick to whip you with. You got to be squeaky clean, and that's what we're supposed to be. We're supposed to obey the laws of the land as long as it don't conflict with our religion.
Mm.
I hope
Mm.
I answered that
Oh
question.
no, no, that was when you first shared it when you were here in the city of New Orleans. It was right, simple and right to the point. Don't give the devil the stick to beat you with. And I thank you all. I thank you for sharing it and the work that you continue to do. You know, even during that time. And as I transition to this next question, we talked about how we opened up saying how you were part of the E team. So how did you become part of the E team?
Becoming a part of the E team. Well, first of all, it was just a blessing from Allah that I was in the city. As I stated earlier, in my early stages in 81, 82, those years when right here in Chicago and 3 and 4 before I moved to New Orleans. I moved to New Orleans when Jesse was running for president.
Mm.
I made that move maybe a few days before the minister spoke at the Superdome while Jesse was running, making that first run for president. Um, but prior to that, and even when I returned home, I always sacrificed all of my free time to be to help the minister. So before I moved, I was working the graveyard shift up until the time the hotel got rid of me, fired me, which was they fired me when I was in that first trip in New Orleans in July of 81. But I've always spent time around the minister's house, just doing whatever I could to help him. Whatever I remember the years when some of the older pioneers was returning to the nation. If I was at the house in the daytime and somebody needed to go be picked up at the airport, I would be the one to go. I would go out to the airport to pick them up and bring them back. So it being a part of the E team was was sacrificing,
Mm.
was sacrificing. I can't think. There's not many of the E team members right now that I know of that did not start out just giving up their time, sacrificing, doing what others wouldn't do. Um, and through that sacrifice, trust was earned, not just given, but earned. And that's how you become a part of the E team. It was through sacrifice.
Mm.
There was, I mean, there was no, but there was no paid post back in 81, 82, 83. We were just going out, doing what we could. We know the minister need things. I remember my first road trip in 81. Brother Dennis, the former regional captain, he was here in Chicago um, during those years. And I came to a Wednesday night meeting and he said, Brother Aaron, he said, the minister is going to be speaking in Columbus, Ohio. He said, would you like to go? I said, yes, sir. I hit the road with me, him, and Minister Abdullah, the prison ministry. The three of us hit the road, got to Columbus, Ohio, met the minister when he stepped off that plane. And that was my first trip. But it was always through sacrifice, just giving up my time, giving up my time. Through that, you earn trust, and before you know it, that's how you end up on the E team.
Praise be to
It
Allah.
was through sacrifice.
That's
I could see the brothers now that came years later. They sacrificed. They got a house out there on the farm now, a security house. But them brothers slept in their cars night and day around the clock, watching the
mm,
minister home long before there was a fence up.
mm.
You know, it was sacrifice.
Beautiful, man. That is it. And so
Praise be to Allah.
we thank you for the sacrifices you made then, the sacrifices you're making now, and even the ones you will make in the future. And the same thing with those brothers. When you see them, let them know that we appreciate the
Praise be to Allah.
sacrifices that you all are making and their families. I just want to pause for this this announcement, and then we get right back to the show. So for
Yes.
those who are watching, if you're interested in having, some promoting a product you have, a business that you have, this is how you can actually do so. Send us an email at browm46 at icloud.com, or reach out to me on social media so we can send you more details about the affordable pricing where you can promote whatever you have, whatever business that you have. But we will greatly appreciate it here on I Have a Testimony. So let's get back to our show and our interview. So you talked about, as we get back, you talked about the E team. Now, and you talked about how interesting how this next question comes about, because it was you listening to the lectures from a distance, and those lectures and the reading the material positively impacted your life to where you are now 43 years later. But now you've been blessed to be around the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan from a security standpoint and also as a personal trainer. Are there any specific moments you can share where being in that close proximity of the minister, how it deeply impacted you as your growth as a Muslim?
But even in 81 and 82, 83, before we got the palace back and the minister was living at the home on Damon, um, I would be over there as often as I could. And I had a regular post over there on Saturday nights to Sunday morning.
Mm,
Me and Brother Sabir. At the time his name was Brother Ralph. Brother Sabir here in Chicago. We would go to the house on Damon at 2 a.m. in the morning and relieve whoever was there. I can't remember who could have been there at this time. And be there from 2 in the morning to 6 a.m. But many of those Saturdays, Sunday mornings, the minister would come out the house like after 5 o'clock, after 5 o'clock prayer, and just sit outside and talk with us.
mm,
So it was, it was just constantly getting fed. Um, so I remember a lot of those Saturday mornings. Um, I remember during the time. I remember one Sunday morning while we was converting the final call from a funeral home to the final call. We
mm,
was doing the construction, the build out. And one Sunday morning, he came out the house. He had a few words with us, and then he was start walking down the street. And I said, "Now this wasn't a close." I said, "Brother Falk," I said, "Where you going?" He said, "Oh, I'm going to the final call." I said, "You walking?" That's what it wasn't a short distance, from his home on 95th and Damon to the final call building, just 79th and Halsted. And so I kind of chuckled. I said, "Brother Falcon, I'll be leaving in a few minutes." I said, "Can I take you up there?" And we laughed, and he got in my regular Mustang, and I drove him to the final call. So things like that I can recall. And of course I stood around the final call with him that morning while he was just looking. It was dust all over the place. We had the scaffolding where Brother Gerald used to be up there with a toothbrush cleaning the chandeliers. You probably heard that on some of the earlier lectures. Um, so those I remember days like that. Now here's something that was touching in the recent years as me being a trainer with him. Could have been a Saturday morning, could have been a Wednesday morning. Those are the days we would spend time working out together a few years ago. I got up there and he was sitting on the porch, and one of the brothers was getting his little two-seater Mercedes together, cleaning and wiping it down. He said, "Brother, I'm just gonna go for a ride." He said, "You ride with me?" I said, "Sure." So we got in the car. As soon as we pulled out of the gate, he said, "I asked my family this morning, where was Jesus arrested at?" And when he paused, I said, "The garden, Brother Farrakhan." He said, "That's right." And I said, "So you expect to get arrested here on the farm, Brother Farrakhan?" He said, "Well, yes, sir." And We drove a little further as he was driving, and he mentioned the movie. Uh, what was it called? About Christ, where what's that actor name?
The
One of
passion, the passion of the Christ.
the passion, yeah, the passion. Was it called the Passion of Christ?
Yeah.
Yes, he mentioned that movie, and as he was talking about it, I said, Brother Parker, I said, you expect that to happen to you? He said, well, it didn't happen to my father. I said,
Mm,
oh, okay, so that morning, man, kind of shook me a little bit to come into seeing him as the one that's going to be possibly tortured like that. And he started telling me, but when they come on the property, brother, he said, Joe, he said, just stand down. He said, be intelligent. He's been telling us for years. He's been telling us for a lot of years, brother Willie. When they come for him to arrest him, he wants the E team to stand down, no matter what we see. Now that's a hard pill. For a long time, I didn't want to be there when
mm,
that happened. But in the last year, I kind of increased my presence on the farm because I figured that I should be there if something like that was to happen. But our instruction is to stand down. And one time as he was telling us about, I don't know if he called it a dream, or I think he called it a vision that one of his sons had. I think it was Waleed, that one of us got out of line during the time or said something while they was arresting him, and they saw as they was taking him away, he saw us getting beat down. So he didn't even know if some of us was dead. That kind of beating. So he told us on many occasions to stand the hell down. He said, if you can't follow instructions, then stay the hell away from me.
mm,
He was that hard on us standing down. He told me when we took that ride that he wanted to see us when he returned. He
mm,
said he's going to be all right. So that's something that I don't know how many of the believers around the country know, but we got instructions to just stand down no matter what we see. We don't know what we're going to see when
mm,
they put hands on them or if it happens like that. We're not fully clear on how it's going to happen. We
mm,
don't know if Allah's going to get them and take them up on the ship before they put hands on them. We just don't know. But he expected to be arrested and be treated like that, a beat down like that, or do it from what we saw in that movie, The Passion of Christ.
mm.
So
Wow.
that kind of messed with me, a little bit. But I can follow instructions.
Yes, sir.
I want to see him when he return as well
Mm.
with the Christ.
Wow.
So
Wow. Thank you for sharing that, man. We appreciate it. And hopefully, more believers will understand that instruction, inshallah, as they get the opportunity to hear this particular testimony. And as we go into the next question, Brother Aaron, you're one of the first Muslims that I saw that muscular, got the physique and everything, because when we first come in, we start getting to the 1 meal a day. You've heard Muslims tell jokes and everything, and they talk about how when people, family members will see us, they're like, hey man, you all right? Are you sick? How you losing weight like that? So my question to you is, how have you been able to develop your physique and what you're doing while observing the principles found in How to Eat to Live?
you want the long story how I got started?
It's only whatever you want to share.
Let me say this. When I my first day at Texarkana in the federal institution, me and Brother Nuruddin, his name is Brother Nuruddin
From
down in
Baton
Baton
Rouge.
Rouge.
Yeah.
Me and him was sent to the same location. They separated 7 or 8 of us that went, put 2 here, 2 there, 2. But me and Nuruddin ended up in Texarkana. And the first day we were there, I could look out my window and see what was called the weight shack. And I saw these brothers out there pumping iron. I might have been about 138 pounds at the time. And I said to Sam, or Nuruddin, Sam at that time. I said, Brother Sam, I said, I'm gonna get all them brothers in our study group. He said, well, how you gonna do that? I said, I'm going out there and start lifting weights with them. And that's what I did. Now I have a background in food and beverage and in a very deep study in nutrition.
Mm.
But that's when I first started lifting weights. And when myself and the other brothers got this time, we agreed before we went in that we would fast every Wednesday, have a unity fast every Wednesday. So on Wednesday, no matter where we was fasting until we got out on Wednesdays. So I always strive to practice how to eat to live, no matter where I was and what I was doing. Um, then there was the time when the minister was pumping iron and lifting weights. He was in his 60s. I'm in my 60s right now. And he used to challenge the believers around the country to get in shape. Now, I got out, didn't have no money when I got out, and I had to start working and doing things for my family. So I didn't have time to go to the gym. I was trying to build businesses, or stay free and take care of my family, my responsibilities. So of course, I had produce market and health food store called Your Produce Market. That came from selling produce from a truck and meeting a couple of partners that wanted to help me build a business in the store, help us build a business in the store. And so later came Your Produce Market. But when the minister was lifting weights prior to being ridden with cancer, he was challenging all of the believers around the country to get in shape. And I've heard him on a couple of occasions tell the laborers around the country, get in shape or get off of your posts. Being around him and moving around in details, some of the E-team members would hear it personally at the house, at the palace, in the garage, you know. And then in 98, in December of 98, the last FOI class in December of 98, he took off his jacket in the FOI class that Monday night and challenged all of the believers, all of the FOI. And I was sitting near the back and I'm thinking to myself, he ain't gonna just keep on challenging me like this and I don't do anything. The first week of 99, that first week in January of 99, I had decided and planned it how I was going to go after it. And I started lifting weights, exercising, building muscle. I should put it like that. I started building muscle. I knew how to do it because I've done it before and I studied it. And I understood nutrition. I understood how to eat for what it was I was trying to accomplish, utilizing how to eat to live. Um, so prior to me lifting weights, I probably ate meat maybe once or twice a year, maybe 3 times a year. I ate fish, fruit, and vegetables. So of course I started eating meat that year, the best that I could find, of course, organic chicken, organic lamb, the best fish that I can eat, because I wanted the protein. But the norm has always been 1 meal a day. There was periods of time that I ate 1 meal every other day during the same time. But I put down so much food when I do eat, it just helps me to build muscle. Um, One thing that a lot of the believers make, I think, we've been taught the best time was between 4 and 6. Very few of us get to eat between 4 and 6 in our lifestyle. In this world, you in traffic, you rushing, you doing something, you probably still at work, and unfortunately, many of us eating after 6, 7, 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. Eating pie, all of the wonderful things we like to eat, right? And next thing you know, we sleeping on it. and that's not good. I'd rather eat my meal at the same time in the early part of the day when I'm still active, moving around and taking care of business. A lot of times I go to the gym after I eat, or I do some cardio after I eat. Um, but I learned how to utilize the principle of how to eat to live and eat for what it is that I'm trying to accomplish. I hope I answered your question, Brother Willie. I
Yeah, you
went
did.
around,
No,
I went around a little bit.
no, I got it. And I got it clear. I'll ask you this because it's interesting. And I'm gonna post this up because you also have this is our brother top notch training. So if you are in Chicago, and I'd imagine with this modern technology, he may be offering something remote as well. But if you all are interested in consultations, guidance about training, you have our brother's information. Top notch training is on Facebook, and you see it's Twitter at that time, but now it is X. Make sure you reach out to him. And I want to ask you this because I came across this picture, and they're going to pull it up, and how it says 30% abs are made in the kitchen. I mean, in the kitchen, not in the gym, right? And
Yeah.
on the way to Savior's Day, my wife was listening to a podcast, and it was interesting. One of the things that the lady on this podcast said, she said that diet is king and exercise is queen. And you hear people say that no matter how much you work out, you still have to have that diet together, right? So, but you
You- Go ahead.
also too, like I realize, like then sometimes we focus on how to eat to live, and sometimes some of us neglect the physical activity that we need to have as well. So my question to you is, how important is exercise in addition to what we've been taught about how to eat to live?
Well, let me put it like this, Brother Willie. To the first point that you made, um, I saw that 30% in the kitchen, 70% in the gym, somewhere. I don't know what the percentage is,
Yeah, I
but
get your
I
point.
know, yeah. I don't know what the percentage is, but I liked it, and so I took that picture next to that. But you got to eat for what it is that you are trying to accomplish.
Mm,
I have this saying: everybody's in the gym lifting weight. Very few people are getting stronger, because there's more to getting stronger than just lifting weight. It's a process of building muscle. And it's
mm,
not just lifting weight. You can overtrain, you can undertrain. Um, the process is very simple. I'm gonna just drop the simple process in 3 steps. Number one, you have to tear down muscle fiber. That's what should be happening when you're doing resistance training. Number two, you have to feed muscle. It only feeds off of protein and water. It's helpful because you're rebuilding tissue. Number three, you have to have enough rest time before you tear the same muscles down.
mm,
Muscles only grow during the rest period. They don't grow during the build down period. So some people overtraining, most people overtraining, and some people are just undertraining.
mm,
But you have to if you can tear down the muscle all you want. You can work the muscle every day if you want to. If you don't feed the muscle, it's not going to heal faster and get tougher and harder. You have to feed it the proper foods for it to grow. Um, you said how important it is to exercise.
mm,
Every morning we wake up, Brother Willie, we aging. We
mm,
aging. As we age, if we don't do something to maintain or build muscle, we're going to be losing muscle.
mm,
Losing muscle means you're getting weaker. Who wants to get up in age and become weak and feeble? That's what getting old is, becoming weak and not being able to handle yourself. You have to do something to build and maintain muscle. All of us should be into some type of exercise. We take things like balance for granted. How many people get in a certain age and all of a sudden they lose their balance, they fall in and they breaking bones and they breaking hips and breaking shoulders and whatnot because of the lack of balance. That's something that's taken for granted. That has to
mm,
be exercised. You follow what I'm saying?
mhm,
So we're taught as Muslims, we constantly train and condition ourselves to meet and overcome what?
All obstacles.
All obstacles in our path. All obstacles in our path. We've been told that everybody's going to have to fight. Even if you teach a baby how to fight, even you got to teach them how to throw the baby bottle. Is that what we were taught?
That's right.
Okay, so we got to constantly train and condition ourselves. That's part of our culture as Muslims.
Mm-hmm.
And somehow we might be getting away from it.
Mm-hmm.
We know the minister said many a times during the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, there was one man that went around the whole country doing the funerals
Mm-hmm.
because they were dying. And
Mm-hmm.
people thought Muslims didn't die. That's
Mm-hmm.
because they follow how to eat to live, you know. And we really need to pick up both those books, dust them off, get into the reality that those are revelations from Allah.
Mm.
Throughout the whole book, the messenger said, so Allah and the person of Master Farad Muhammad taught me. So that means there is revelation on how we can sustain life more abundantly. So we have so many believers today, it pains the minister, pains me, and I'm sure it pains many of us, that so many of us are suffering from diabetes. It's not necessary. So many of us are suffering from hypertension, having heart attacks and strokes. It's not necessary. It's all in our diet. It's all in what we eat. We looking at all these other people, books that they writing, and none of them said that Allah came in the person of Master Farah Muhammad and taught them how we should be eating. And turn it in our kitchen should be a medicine, should be the medicine cabinet. So we really got to get back to how to eat to live. We have to start taking care of something for our fitness. Um, I want to be here for the long haul. I don't want to be a shooting star. I want to be, I'm really right now, brother Willie, I'm really shooting for about 135. And
Mm.
I don't want to be 100, 110, and I need someone to help me do everything I got to do.
Mm.
I want to see those years with some strength, with
Mm.
some ability. I want to be able to carry myself. I want to be able to pick up myself off the floor if I accidentally trip on something. You know, I don't want to have to call somebody to get me up. So I constantly work on my fitness.
Beautiful.
Am I the best example? Nah,
Mm.
but I work at it.
Yes, sir. And we appreciate the example and the guidance that you shared because it answered that question, as you said, in regards to what we need to do to start reversing the stuff that we are actually seeing. And as we get ready, there's other one more question I want to ask you as we get ready to close. You know, we just left Chicago. Man, it feels like it was just last week, but it was 2 weeks ago. And the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan once again delivered to me another historic lecture filled with revelation given to him by Allah and the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad. And I just want to, as we get ready to close, just to say, you know, what were your thoughts or any major takeaways from what you heard the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan share?
Ah, man, it's like he knocked the brains of Satan out, brother.
Mm-hmm.
He said, what he said Sunday, nobody, you notice how many times he said what Allah, God, Master Farad Muhammad, and what the most honorable Elijah Muhammad wanted him to say,
Mm-hmm.
told him to what to say to the world.
Mm-hmm.
That was powerful, brother.
Mm-hmm.
That was powerful. That and he's saying what nobody else would say. Nobody's attacking that beast like he is.
Mm-hmm.
So that was so profound. Nobody's exposed, nobody's man enough to stand up in power, you know. Everybody they just letting them how to do what he want to do.
Yeah, man. Yeah.
None of these nations are standing up. Well, he stood up and he told the world what their intentions were. And he
Mm-hmm.
had to be true because they wiping them all out.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you want to say, well, where did he get that from? All you got to do is look at what's happening. That man is over there trying to kill every man, woman, and child over there in Palestine.
They are
You
definitely
know,
doing.
over there in the Gaza, over there in Gaza.
Mm.
So, and he's not stopping, and he's not going to stop during Ramadan either. He made that clear.
Dang.
He's not going to stop during the month of Ramadan. The Muslim world got to stand up.
Yeah. We
You
look.
know,
Yeah, and that is something a very key point that you said. And I think that is also important to be stressed. How he said the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan consistently said, as I got from the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Allah, right?
that's
And he
right. That's
continuously
right.
keeps saying that, continuously keeps saying that. And then the next day after Savior's Day, a Jewish Israeli newspaper released something saying, you know how they give you some of the truth and some of the falsehood, but they released something
Yes.
where they went out and said that, you know, the Prime Minister of Israel, he knew about a little bit about the increase in the use of the SIM cards on the actual cell phone uses. What is bearing witness to what the Honorable Minister Louis Farrakhan said the Most Honorable Elijah Muhammad and Allah showed him that the Prime Minister
Yes.
of Israel knew about this in advance, and there are documents that
Yes.
are coming out. And
Yes.
I want to ask you this because you know sometimes some people see us as Muslims and they see us with the suit and bow ties on and the sisters, and they think we don't have any type of social life and think that Muslims can't enjoy themselves. But you are one of those Muslims that I know that also has you have that balance. You know what I'm saying? You're dedicated to the mission, but you still have your own social activities that are not in contradiction to the teachings of the Most High Elijah Muhammad, and that is you like in regards to getting on the motorbike. And this is a picture of our brother on the bike. And listen to me, I ain't saying that our brother just don't ride around the streets of Chicago. No, he gets, as they say, he hits the road and go from state to state, man. So can you just talk about that? Just the joy of that and as that how that connects with your being a Muslim as well.
That's you know what, that's it's nothing like being a free black man.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and and I enjoy riding motorcycles. I probably do more prayer on motorcycles than I do in the house. You
Mm-hmm.
know, of course I say my prayers in the house, but when I would pull out the garage with that motorcycle, I'm praying. And while I'm out there on the highway, I, you've seen, I think, you seen my bike down in New Orleans a couple of
Yeah,
times, haven't you?
yeah,
Yeah, I
yeah.
didn't. Yeah, yeah. I didn't trailer it, or I rode it. But I do a lot of prayer when I ride motorcycles. And the minister told me one year, he said, brother, he said, keep Allah with you. He
Mm.
said, just keep Allah with you. Recently he asked me to put it down. Soon I'm gonna ask him, did he mean forever? but, but he did ask me to put it down. So I had to roll my motorcycle in the last couple of seasons,
Mm.
riding seasons, and I do truly miss it. But if he never want me to pick it up, then I'll never touch it again.
Praise be
But
to
I do. I am going to ask him soon. Did he mean forever?
Mhm.
Because I still like enjoying the motorcycle. I just enjoy it. I
Wow.
I one year I managed to get maybe about 40 or 50 uh, bikers from the Chicago area to come to Mas Mariam and hear Brother Ishmael. You
Wow.
know, I'm not the only biker in the nation. You got Brother Terrence down there in Atlanta, the first officer.
Brother
He's
Tim
a
and
rider.
Sister
Yeah,
Beverly.
Brother Terrence down in. You got Brother uh, Jeffrey down in Houston. He's a couple of
Mhm.
riders down there. Then of course you got our minister out in California,
Brother Malik.
Brother Malik. Abdul Malik. Yeah, he loves to ride. We got quite a few of them. It's other riders in the nation. And of course we was able to bring Raleigh the black bikers from around the country to 10-10-15.
Hmm.
We must have had about 15, 20,000 bikers from around the country at
Wow.
10, 15, just from phone calls that we were doing. And
Wow.
Brother Malik led that charge.
Praise
And
be to
so,
God.
yeah, so, but yeah, I enjoy. To me, a very dangerous thing. I wouldn't recommend it to somebody who never rode to start riding a two-wheel motorcycle. I would
Mm.
recommend a trike, a
Mm.
three-wheeler. But I still got those two wheels in my blood. Once you start riding, you want to keep on riding until a little birdie tell you, okay, it's time to start riding three wheelers or something. Maybe that was it from the minister a couple of years ago when he asked me to ease up off the bike for a while. You know, he didn't say it for a while, but just told me to ease up off the bike. And
Mm.
I hadn't been on it since he said it to me.
Yes, sir.
You know.
Well, as we get ready to close it, and I always give our guests this opportunity. Was there anything that you wanted to share that you didn't get the opportunity to share? Maybe because I didn't ask the question. Here's your opportunity right now before we close out.
Well, one thing for the believers that are listening, and for those that are non-believers that are listening, the Honorable Elijah Muhammad told us. He told me this face to face one day. I was leaving out the house in Michigan after training, after doing some workout with him. But maybe a month and a half later, he came out and said it publicly, where at a believers meeting one night. He made it clear that the two that back him, Master Farad Muhammad, the God, and the Christ, the most honorable Elijah Muhammad, he has those two backing him. And he told us that as long as we with him, the same two would back him. And he said to me, as long as your children are with you, they have the same backing that you have. So that's something we have to keep in mind. That's something we should teach our babies. That as long as we with him, the same two that back him, back us. So I feel very secure. The believers around the country are always thanking the E-team members for securing the minister. And most of us, I know I make it clear all the time that I'm not securing the minister. We're not securing the minister. Allah is his security. Allah and the Honorable Elijah Muhammad got his back and they are securing him. We there to make things comfortable for him. We there to help him. But as long as we're with him, we got that security that he has.
Mm,
And so for many of the believers around the country, we can't thank Allah enough for all of you,
mm,
because we couldn't do what we do if it wasn't for the believers around the country and around the world. Um, they made our minister a free black man,
mm,
and that enabled us to do what we are, what we can do around him.
mm,
So just stay strong, strive to improve your shortcomings. He said that soon we're going to be going into that 3 year period. He said that before he delivered that lecture, that once he delivered this lecture, after this, we're going to be entering that 3 year period. On the other side of the 3 year period is the hereafter.
mm,
He wants to see us when he returns.
mm,
So whatever shortcomings we have in our health, uh, our physical shortcomings, our mental health shortcomings, our spiritual shortcomings, we need to strengthen them. We need to strengthen them so that we can go through this 3 year period and be here when he returns.
Praise be to Allah. Thank you, my brother, for what you shared. Thank you for your time, and I know that believers are going to get something from this. And one of the benefits of this show, I love that it gives us an opportunity where we are recording our history. So those after us, when they want to know, now we have our own recordings from this
Yes,
show,
sir.
several other believers that have shows as well. Now they'll be able to access our own records and be able to, hear the first person testimonies and stories about what's going on in our nation. So may Allah continue to bless you and your family. And inshallah, we'll talk soon.
Thank you, Brother Willie. May Allah continue to bless you. Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. And for those who are here, we thank you all for tuning in to another broadcast of I Have a Testimony. Once again, this is your brother Willie Muhammad. And I encourage you all to continue to keep tuning in. Make sure you hit the subscribe button right now. Hit the subscribe button. Hit the like button so we can get through these algorithms that they're having at with YouTube. You know what the situation is, but they're constantly flagging our page because they want this to be taken down. But we keep working, and Allah is the best knower. So we thank you all. May Allah continue to bless each and every one of you. This is your brother Willie Muhammad.